Second piece, same rotation, that backswing, okay, up to the top and stop. Nice. Okay, now here's the master move, okay? Next piece, from there, we go vertical drop, okay? Horizontal tug. Nice.
Guys, welcome back to Chasing 120. My name is Nick Minoy, strength and conditioning coach, gym owner, creator of Get Golf Strong Gym, and this is Chasing 120, a 12-week journey to reaching 120 miles an hour of cruising clubhead speed with my driver. This is episode number 2, and we've been laid off, or I've been laid off. I've been laid off. I didn't get fired from anywhere. This is taking a little bit longer than I originally anticipated because I was actually sick after video 1. My whole house got sick, so I'm actually 2 weeks behind. So, little recap in case anybody didn't watch episode number 1. I'd recommend watching it just because that kind of lays the entire groundwork for what the plan is for the 12 weeks. It's my TPI body assessment, breaking down, how I'm going to go about reaching 120 miles an hour of cruising clubhead speed, my approach, how I'm going to approach the strength side, how I'm going to approach the skill side, yada, yada, yada. So, as we see in the intro, little skill and technique work. So skill and technique day. So for anybody who did watch episode number 1, I kind of talked a little bit about, hold on here with the chair. A little reminder too, this is live. This is me basically staring into my screen in my room, just live recording. Very little editing unless I start rambling excessively into the microphone. So bear with me in those moments. I try to keep them short. I'm trying not to say I said like a million times last episode. As well. I just did it again. Anyway, moving on. So I would definitely check out episode number 1 if you haven't seen it. Lays down the groundwork for everything that we're going through. All right, so episode number 2 today, skill and technique work. So originally in episode 1, I talked about how, my main focus and the area that I have expertise in is really building the body side. So we looked at my TPI assessment. We looked at where my body was. We found my limitations with the body. And I kind of talked about how I'm going to approach that. And I really kind of highlighted a little bit how the skill and technique side, I was going to wait until the end of the 12 weeks to really start to get a professional opinion on, I should say. So I was going to do the skill and technique work regardless, but I didn't really plan to get a professional lens on it, if you want to say, if that's the right way to say it. So the way things happened, like I mentioned, got sick, couldn't work out, was laid out with a fever for like a full week, just destroyed. Worst I've been sick in, I can't even remember the last time. And got great feedback. Again, thank you guys for checking out the channel. Truly appreciate it. I had a bunch of people reach out, but one person is someone from the area that I know from the past, and he's a golf teaching pro. And he said, hey, I looked at your swing a little bit. I see some things you're doing, and, I'd love to help you out. Maybe you could help me out with some strength work. So I thought, great, awesome. Gave me a great opportunity to focus on something that I really wasn't planning on, highlighting at the start, especially in the first 4 weeks of training. So, maybe it worked out. It turned out for the best, changing the plan a little bit or adapting to, the circumstance. So with that said, what we're going to go through today, skill and technique day, I'm going to highlight the changes that I was able to make, and it's really focused on 3 different parts of training on the skill day. So number 1, and the thing that he helped me out with the most is swing path. Number 2 is something that I kind of started touching on last year, working on in the gym, which is kind of tempo ideas. And then we finished up with just some cleanup stuff that I kind of noticed from going through the different drills. Right, so this is the breakdown. I'm going to try and keep it rather a little more brief today. Like I mentioned the first one, I'm not a golf. This is my second off season as a golfer. I know the body. I know how to train athletes. I know how to, build your body to move better, be stronger, be more powerful. The skill and technique side was the weakest link for sure in the chain of things that I have going on. But after just 2 weeks, I was able to make some great changes thanks to the pro, which hopefully at some point I got to talk to him before I say anything. Maybe have him do something together with him to kind of go over some things. But my goal for the first part, so swing path number 1, is what we're going to focus on. Let's get into that so I could show you exactly what it is that I'm talking about and what he pointed out. First thing I did in the gym, I figured I needed some kind of setup to work on my swing. I got this like little shower curtain thing going on here from Amazon. I got this mat set up here. So this is my little in the gym setup where I can kind of hit balls into the mat there. So little disclaimer, these are Nerf balls or plastic balls, right? I'm not the brightest guy in the world, but I know I can't hit regular golf balls. I sent this video to a couple friends. They're like, you're going to kill yourself. It's a Nerf ball or it's plastic, right? I'm not hitting regular balls. First thing that is blatantly obvious to me now, so we're getting into swing path right now, is if we look at the swing here. So let's just take a couple lines, right? So setup line. If we take our club, this is how I was always kind of thinking about it, right? So when that lead arm gets parallel with the floor, so this left arm here, we draw another line. So this is my swing slot now, right? So in a perfect world, good golfers, they get to the top of their backswing, and what they do is these hands and this club drop right back down into that slot. So what became blatantly obvious after speaking with the golf pro and him pointing it out is, just how steep my swing is. So look at my club now coming down to that plane. I mean, that is well above that slot. And I mean, the club is basically going between my neck and my shoulder. So if you're doing this in your swing, the only option you have is basically the club has to come on this outside to in path into the ball, right? So that's exaggerated there, but that is your only option to swing the club, right? Is outside to in. Or right to left, right? So very steep coming down, right? So what I did then is also week one, before I got sick, I started doing some speed work with the speed sticks, as we see on the side here, and I just filmed a couple of my swings with the driver, right? So it becomes blatantly obvious now when I started to look at this, just how steep I was, and like unaware of I was like that steep. Right? Again, same exact thing going on. So way up here, club is super steep coming down through my neck, above my shoulder on this very steep plane. So drill number one, right? Feeling the difference between the two different paths of inside versus outside, right? So if we see in picture number one here, this was the norm for every swing I've taken since I got that mat up 2 weeks ago. Pretty quickly, I was able to get the feel. It took a minute to figure it out, but like getting the club now down below the shoulder, I feel like for me has become the norm now with my swing. So the goal is to get rid of that steep path and develop the feel for the inside swing plane versus the outside, right? So over-under drill, right? So the goal was I set up this little stick here. When he showed me, we used a noodle actually, which is probably a better idea because I clanged this thing a couple different times. But basically when I did it with him the first day, we just did one drill, and it was bring the club underneath this stick and then bring the club back down underneath that stick. And I got pretty comfortable doing it, so I moved on an over-under is what I decided to do at the gym a few days after seeing him. Once I got comfortable and I felt like the club was coming down on a better path, I started to work the over-under path and then the over-over path just to kind of feel the difference. So let me just play it through real quick. Right, so I started with just kind of half swings first. So we could see there really emphasizing over and then under. Right, so if I kind of freeze it here, right, so takeaway, whole different story. I think there's some work to do on the takeaway. But if we look right away, I mean, the difference in the club coming down, I mean, I'm now dropping the hands and I'm getting well underneath that plane. And I'm doing this pretty much constant now for all my swings, right? So that was the idea and that was the goal for this first drill. So I'll just play through. These are some quarter swings. I'm going about like 50% here, just really working on that feel first. Right, so a couple times when I know I'm getting over the top a little more, I'm kind of clanging into that. But one thing I did notice, which is a positive, is even when I hit that stick, I'm still dropping that club down low into that plane. Right, so even though I hit it, I'm still getting low. Is it this one, I think? Nope, so I passed it, but you guys get the idea. So the stick is there just to give me some feedback. Right, so after the half speed, I went into kind of full speed swings. Right, same thing, working that over and under path and just kind of keeping an eye when the club comes down, just exactly what that path is, and I'm able to do a good job on all these of getting down below that shoulder. Right, before the club was basically, up here on the way down, and now I'm doing a much better job of getting it low. right? So that was the goal of this drill. Over and then under to really just exaggerate that swing path, which I was able to do pretty well after some reps on here. A couple clangs here and there is what it is, but really feeling that path and really getting or doing a better job of inside to out on that swing plane. Right, so that was drill number 1, which is over under. Right, so what I decided to do then in drill number 2 was kind of go back and feel more of like an over path. And what I mean by that is same idea, but now using the stick, keeping it over both on the takeaway as well as the downswing, right? Kind of feel more of a neutral path, if you want to call it that, or even like back to what feels more natural at this point of that more right to left pattern, which I think is, at this point at least, what I was more comfortable with. But even doing this, so I noticed like one little thing, even doing this now and being that over path, I'm still doing a way better job of bringing that club down below my shoulder. So my irons before, everything was between my neck and my shoulder, and now even doing this over path, it's still coming down on the correct plane. I'm still shallowing the hands, I think it's called, shallowing the hand, shallowing the club as I go through. Right, so this is over compared to over-under. Side note here on the creative side, really dropped the ball playing lowrider on the over path, right? Lowrider should have at least been on the low path, would have made more sense. Anyway, right, so those are the two different paths. We have over-under, and then we have over-over. So, not trying to get too far ahead of myself or trying to shape shots really, but just feeling the difference between the two, and then making sure that no matter which one it is, I'm at least not coming down on like that really high, crazy over the top plane, which I was doing before. On the driver side, I took a couple of videos and I was able to do a much better job of keeping almost everything below that shoulder, right? So here I am, here's the downswing, and I'm, again, back below that shoulder line where before, I was like way up here, right? So delivery much better, getting way more comfortable with that feeling, and just, overall, definitely a better swing path, right? That's drill number 1. All right, so for number 2, swing tempo. So this is something that like I've always heard like a million times, like tempo, tempo town. Look at these videos of tempo, and to be completely honest, I still don't know if I understand it great. But I started doing this last year, and what I did was I downloaded an app called Soundbrenner. So I think it's a music app really, but what it does is it has different. You could set different metronomes for different speeds, right? So my idea was to try and like feel with different metronome sounds what feels like a good tempo. Tick, take away the club, tock, impact. I don't know if that's the best way to do it. I've seen that other video where it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That doesn't really make any sense to me, but like tick tock, I can understand that. That's at least I can like in my brain understand and interpret how to do that, right? So that's drill number 2, is working on tempo, working on some different speeds, different BPMs, and really seeing like what feels like a comfortable speed for me. I don't think you want to think about too many things when you're swinging the golf club, but if I can get to a good foundational place and then really just focus on, like the tempo in my head while I'm playing, I feel like that's, to me, maybe I'm wrong. I'll talk to the golf pro more. I'll get more of a professional opinion, but I feel like common sense wise, that makes a lot of sense to me, of like getting a set tempo in my head to kind of always fall back on when swinging the golf club, right? So drill number 2, working on tempo. First thing I did is went through just my kind of warm up. So this is something I've been doing on my my regular strength training days or just as a daily drill, is trying to time those tick tocks with the bottom of the swing. So tick, tock, tick. So this is just the warm-up I'm using. This is something I've been doing more on kind of a daily basis, just to feel those different BPMs. Right, so after this, we go into the actual drill, which is hitting the ball. Right, so started off with 58, right, just getting the feel first. And again, the point is takeaway, impact. Right, so timing up that takeaway, timing up that impact position, that impact of the ball. So for me, 58 felt a little bit on like the easier, smoother side. Wasn't too difficult. Didn't feel like I was really swinging. Definitely not swinging hard. Definitely felt like like a soft, kind of like a pitching stroke, if that makes sense. All right, so we picked the speed up a little bit to 62 here. Right, same thing. Tick is the takeaway, talk impact. Right, just developing a feel for those different patterns, those different that different tempo. I remember last year I first put my headphones in. I was using this at the range, and this was like right around the time where I started to kind of play my best. Maybe just for the simplicity of it was really the only thing going on, my only swing thought at the time. Right, so 66. This started to feel a little bit rushed. Not like overly hard to hit the ball, but definitely felt a little more challenging. That's the drill. Working on tempo, working on getting comfortable and feeling out those different tempos. I'm sure it's probably challenging if you've never done it before. It's the type of thing just from like a strength and conditioning or a coordination and really like a motor learning or like a body standpoint. I think it's like a no-brainer. It's just a simple thing to get your body feeling different speeds, right? I know, me personally, I never really had a tempo in my head. I would just kind of, I don't know. I have no idea what I was doing. I would just swing whatever swing I felt like I was doing. So when I remember last year, there was a point where I thought about it, just from like doing something with the piano I was playing, like using a metronome. And I looked up some stuff online. I couldn't find like a real concrete answer aside from like that 1, 2, 3, which again, I don't really get that one. If anybody wants to explain that to me, this I just know for me right now is something that's doable, right? So the goal is to keep trying different BPMs and really find, which one feels good and which one is repeatable. That's my approach of, how I'm going about using the tempo or the speed drill and using the BPMs. Drill number 3, last one, final one. Let's get through this one. I'm losing my voice slowly and I'm going a little bit longer than I originally planned. So let's get into number 3, the technical cleanup. That sounds a little, I could have done a better job of a title there. So technical cleanup is just, something I noticed was my takeaway when I looked back and kind of looked at some of the drills I was doing in this day. So one thing that the golf pro pointed out, and one thing that I always feel, because I always had this idea in my head of like kind of lifting my hands on the takeaway away from my body, I get the tendency to start to really lift and kind of bring my hands up and get that club and my hands especially away from that red line plane. So my hands really start to come up fast is one thing that I noticed in almost all these drills that I did in this one day. And I look back at some other swing videos as well, and same thing, right? So for comparison, I know obviously this is, like it's hard to compare to, PGA pros, but just for clarification, what I'm talking about is the idea of bringing the hands and the club kind of back on the same plane together. So in this video, as you watch, the club and the hands both kind of, the takeaway, he's doing a little bit of an out. I don't know if this camera angle too is the best one, but the plane, the hands especially, kind of stay on that plane and ride up at takeaway, right? So the hands don't lift right away and get, super far away from the body, at that point. So for me, what I wanted to do is a couple of ideas I had for just some takeaway drills. So kind of what I thought about was I could set up kind of that same thing I was using for the swing plane and just work on taking the club kind of straight back on that plane. And aside from getting that straight line hands and club on the same plane, it also gave me kind of a cool feel with where my weight goes on my takeaway. So that was like an added little bonus there of kind of feeling the feet, right? Just something I kind of thought about. Maybe it's a horrible idea. Maybe it's a great idea. It just kind of felt good for me. And, thinking about transitioning after takeaway also was something that I kind of always struggle with mentally. So this was the setup, just kind of taking the club back and forth on that plane. So what I did then was a couple different position setups. So I felt kind of what was like if it was too low for the first one. So like if it's too low, where I'm taking the club way too far inside, this was kind of the feel on that kind of, wrong one there. Let's get the circle clear. Right, so this is setup plane. So if I started taking the club away too far inside, right, not horrible. I mean, the hands are actually in a pretty good position there, but this was like a little bit of a lower setup, right? Then too high of a setup was kind of here, right? So hands, this is more what I was doing with that over and under and even the over. This was more the position I think I was getting in a lot. And then got back closer to that original one with more of a neutral setup with the hands and the club kind of coming back on the same plane here. So if we look at this, right, hands and club both riding up that same line on the plane, right? So that was the idea, is getting this feel and really trying to kind of just slowly go through these reps to try and get that good feel of on plane with the hands, on plane with the club, and just that straight takeaway motion, right? So this is just a little idea I came up with, a little bonus that I added in there to kind of work on feel and a few other things to kind of complement the other drills I was doing. Right, so that wraps up the 3 different drills for skill day, skill and technique day. So drill number 1 was working on that swing path, really feeling the difference between the inside and outside swing. And I can't, highlight enough how the little change where, like, I talked about it in video number 1. The original plan is I really wasn't going to do much as far as like getting lessons or really getting like professional advice on the swing until after the 12 weeks when I felt like I was working on all these other things and swinging. So like thinking of all the reps that I would have done with the incorrect steep swing path, like I knew I was coming over the top, but I don't know if I was aware of like how steep it really was, or aware of how to get rid of it if he didn't show me really that idea for the under drill. I think this has put me in a way better position, 100% put me in a better position. I'm thankful that he reached out to me. I'm really thankful that he's helping me out. I mean, it's made a huge change, in a short period of time, and just all the reps that I would have been doing with that steep over the top swing path. Right, so that was number 1, swing path. Number 2, working on tempo, BPM, getting a feel for those different swing speeds, those different tempos. And then number 3, working on that technique side of the takeaway. Right, so that wraps up skill day, skill and technique day. So back to feeling good, still throat's a little scratchy, whatever, but I'm in week 2 now of speed and strength work, right? For the plan, chasing 120, right? I haven't lost sight at all of the original goal, which is really building the speed. It's just like a happy added benefit now that I've really straightened some things out on the skill and technique side and straightened things out with the swing plane, right? That's just an added benefit, right? At the end of the day, chasing 120, it's not like if after 12 weeks I don't cruise at 120, it's a failure. It's for me, this is a long-term goal. And it's really about getting better at golf. I mean, I think that's the goal for everybody who's an amateur golfer, is to really enjoy the game and get better, little by little, and keep piecing things together and keep working on, that puzzle. That's what makes golf so intriguing. I mean, at least to me and and so many other people, is it's a constant. You're constantly putting together the pieces to try and get better, right? So this is an added bonus that I was able to, figure that piece out with the help of the Golf Pro. So in the next episode, which I'm looking forward to, getting back into my more area of expertise, which is the speed training, the the power training, the flexibility, the mobility work. I feel like there's so much misinformation out there, especially with strength training. So I'm really looking forward to that episode, going through what I'm doing, and giving you guys some info that's going to help you guys, your golf game, your body, get healthier, get stronger, move better, and ultimately play better golf. I appreciate anyone who stuck around for, again, this took way longer than anticipated. I did realize that if you watch these videos at 2x speed, they're a lot easier to watch, because I had to rewatch it just to make sure I didn't make any mistakes after the fact, so I couldn't sit there and listen to myself at 1x speed. 2x'd it. Still get all the info. It still sounds fine. Again, appreciate it, guys. Anybody who reached out after the first video, appreciate all the comments. Thank you guys for listening, and until next time, I'll see you guys then. Adios.